So hello and welcome to What You Need Is a Damn Good Listening To with me, Chris Grimes. And I'm very, very excited today because I'm doing what's called reciprocating. I'm returning a favour of two lovely people who I met on an extraordinary journey of their own, which I'll let them talk about in a short while. This is Stephen and Donna Fry from Australia. Hurrah! So, hey! So we've got a lovely, as being global heads of ourselves, we've got a big time difference. It's about 5:30 in the afternoon for you, isn't it?
Yep. Yes, it is.
And it's Adelaide, isn't it? You're based in?
Yep, Adelaide. Yep.
Is the right answer.
Adelaide.
So, what's so lovely about when we first met, I'm a comedy improvisation performer by training and background. And when you got in touch on LinkedIn to say, can we have a conversation? I just went, yes. And you were on an extraordinary journey where it's 366 days, because you've done it on a leap year, to meet somebody new every day. And just tell us the story of that, how that came about.
Yeah, no, sure. Like, I'm sitting here now thinking a year ago, I had no idea we were going to go on this sort of journey. But on the 27th of November last year, we decided to go on a journey of meeting someone new every day for the next 366 days.
Yeah.
And not just meeting them, but to have a conversation with them and have a photograph with them.
Yeah.
And when we started it, we were meeting people just physically. So we live in Adelaide, so we'd just go out and bump in and meet people. And then when we got into lockdown, we thought, we want to keep doing this. What do we do? So we ended up on LinkedIn and connecting with people on LinkedIn. And that's how we come across Chris, which was awesome. But the reason we started this journey was because I refer to myself as a
recovering
socially awkward engineer. So I need my help again. So I'm now a recovered socially engineer.
Most definitely. Yes. It's so much better.
Yeah. Thank you for that. It was all about learning how to better communicate with people without any agenda. And that was the main reason for starting the journey. And to help people understand that, if anyone's ever read the book by Stephen Covey called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, have you read that at all, heard about it, Chris?
I absolutely have. He's a very, very, now sadly departed, very seminal corporate communicator, isn't he?
Yeah. So it's interesting because when you read, there's 7 habits of highly effective people. Habit 5 is, he talks about
seeking first to understand.
Thank you. Seeking first to understand before being understood. So it was all about, it's all about the habit of learning how to understand people before being understood. So that was what we wanted to really learn from this journey.
It's so lovely that you're doing it together as something you can conjoin to do in seeking, conversations globally now. And as you said, because of the pandemic, it's, out of adversity comes great opportunity sometimes. And then there you go from face-to-face meetings to get on the open road of being global heads of yourself, which is such a blessed quest.
Yes. Yeah, I know. Like, it's been just amazing speaking to people, all over the world. Like this morning, we spoke to an amazing lady that lived in somewhere in just outside of Seattle. She was an amazing young lady. She's got 3 businesses. Mm-hmm. But the amazing thing about it that we never really understood, like, when we started on our journey of changing, the direction we're going in our life, it was all about changing the way we thought. And with communicating with people, we learnt, if you want to have a good conversation, find common ground. Because if you can find common ground, then you can, go higher level. And the interesting thing now with what's going on around the world is every single person on the planet has common ground.
Yes.
Right? Because everyone has been affected by what's going on around the world. So that's the most amazing thing, because, you and I can have a conversation with anyone, because all you got to ask them is, how are you coping with what's going on?
Yes.
Right? And that's just the amazing thing. So, the whole world's connected together and everyone right now has a common ground. It's like, it's incredible. So it's a great way, amazing. Yeah.
And so you talked about, I suppose, recovering socially awkward. It was about introversion being your sort of factory default preference, if you like. not your
Yeah.
factory produced, obviously.
Yeah.
So I was intrigued by that when you first got in touch about how, because of my introversion, I just need to get out more, metaphorically, in my own head. So, what a great quest you're on.
No, that's a good one. My background is, well, to put it shortly, I've learnt more in the last 4.5 years than I've learnt my 12 years at school, 4 years at university, and 30 years working for a corporate company. And that was because someone sat me down 4.5 years ago and said, if you want to change things, you need to start reading. And then he said to me, you don't have to like it, you just have to do it. And that changed everything. But before then, my whole self-esteem for 30 years was tied up in what I did as an engineer.
Right.
So because you're so comfortable, and that's all you know.
Yeah.
And the guy that helped me to start reading, he also, this is like the questions he asked me, and he helped me understand that, help me again, what I do. My mind
what you do is not who you are.
Yeah. So my mind goes blank every now and again.
No,
so you help me. Yeah.
Just as well I can actually read his mind. Like that's not the quirky thing about me, but I can. Like I just know what he's thinking.
Listening, Donna, that's listening to understand right there.
Yeah, I know.
And so it's such a lovely, honestly, it's a glorious journey that you're on. And the whole notion of rapport building and listening to people is just such a brilliant way to to escape our own, I suppose, escape introversion. It's just a brilliant device there.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
wonderful. That's okay.
Yeah. So what he helped me do to understand that what I do is not who I am, because my whole life I was tied up in what I did. Everything was tied up in what I did. And when I realized, okay, well, what I do is not who I am, then I had to ask myself the question, who am I? And when you ask yourself that question and draw a blank, where you really start to think. So, and that's where things started to change. Look, I don't want to be like that forever. Like I want to.
What's lovely, I appreciate too, in our humanity that binds us all, is we never actually ever really get to the end of who we are, because we're always discovering. Always an epic quest, a journey of discovery. My old acting teacher used to say that the human condition is how we go about to make ourselves happy, and human beings are either good, bad, crap, or indifferent at that quest. So when we tune in to asking ourselves the right profound questions, then that gets us on the open road of a voyage of self-discovery, because it's not over until it's over, as we now all know as the human condition. I've been very struck recently with a quote that sounds simple, but it's really profound. It's from Dory in Finding Nemo, which is just keep swimming. Just keep swimming, which for me has been a real antidote to the common ground of, I suppose, riding the waves of the pandemic. Really, it's just keep swimming, because actually nobody knows the answers yet.
And no matter what happens, tomorrow's always going to be there. Like tomorrow's, the day goes on, life goes on. Like it's not like we can check out, because something's going on we don't like. Like life goes on, we have to deal with it.
And the big challenge is all we've got is now. There's a really powerful meme online which is called the clock of now, which is now.
Yes.
Thank you very much for sharing your now with me here. This is a real pleasure talking to you. So I'm going to bring you to some storytelling archetypes. I'm going to bring you into something called the clearing on what you need is damn good listening to. So where would you say you both go to get clutter free and get inspired? What would your clearing be, would you say?
Okay.
That's a good. I'm as in a physical space?
Well, it can be metaphorical, it can be literal. What I'm already hearing is you've got on the open road of decluttering by getting clear about what other people's lives are like. So almost doing it through what you're doing is what I'm interpreting. But it's just to ask you an open question of, what does a clearing feel like or look like to you? And then the idea is I'm going to join you in that clearing, and then we're going to take you through some storytelling archetypes to find out a bit more about you.
Yeah. I would have to say my clearing is just a space by myself where I can pray and think. you know, on what's happening, and you know, just meditate, I guess, and that kind of thing. That would be my clearing.
So religious faith is obviously there in what you've just said. So this is the idea of going off to pray somewhere and get sort of meditative.
Yes.
And be at peace in that way. And
yes.
is that something you both share?
Yeah, we do, for sure. And I guess for clearing my mind, like, and clearing myself, it was about developing habits of learning. So developing habits around reading, developing habits around listening to positive stuff as opposed to listening to stuff that you'd listen to normally on the radio and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And associating with people that are way outside of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you normally associate with people, well, in my case, associated with engineers.
Yeah.
Not the most exciting bunch of people. And I can say that. And yeah, and it's about then associating with people that have a better lifestyle, think differently than you.
Mm-hmm.
That creates like a whole different way to think. Yeah, so those sorts of things is really what, without a doubt, cleared the path for us. And that's what motivated us to start in Adelaide, an Adelaide Entrepreneur Club, where we can bring people in to speak about their journey so they can share that with other people, because changing the mindset is the most important thing. That was what it was for us, because, you know, before we went out and started looking at a way to change our life from a, you know, rather than being an engineer, if I tried to do something before I changed my mindset, you know, I would have made excuses if it didn't work.
Yeah.
So I had to get my mindset changed first, which took a lot of time, right? You know, at 50 years of age, after working in the corporate world for 30 years, that does not happen overnight.
Yeah. The idea that you know, we are of our time in that we can only, it's our choice when we decide that I need to open up new synapses to new experiences, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I'm also hearing, there's a nice quote, which is your vibe attracts your tribe. And I'm hearing that what you're doing is you're getting away from your engineering tribe, you know, which served you well in terms of teeing you up for now. But there's a lovely leadership quote: what's got you here is not going to get you there. So what's next? So you've got on the open road here. Yeah.
And I had, when I really thought about it, on our journey of meeting someone every day, we met someone, would have been after you, Chris, otherwise I'd have asked you this question.
Uh-huh.
The question he asked me was, and I didn't have an answer to it, he said, how do you want to be remembered? And I took me a few days to think of an answer, and I guess that's what you know, makes me think about, you know, why I went down a different path than an engineer. Like, I don't know how you'd answer it. I don't know how, like, but it challenged me to go away and think, how do I want to be remembered? So you can think of all these wonderful things about how you want to be remembered. And to me, it came down to, if there was just one person that when I was gone was thankful that I lived, right? If it was just one person that was thankful that I lived because I did something that helped them, then that's how I'd like to be remembered. And then that reflects on, you know, you don't have to change a lot of people, right? You just, if all you did was had one person's life change, then you don't know how far that's going to ripple.
I love that.
Yes. So
the world a better place by your having been there is such a lovely, beautiful answer.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was the way, the example that was explained to me that helped me was, if you take an apple and you cut it open, you can easily count how many seeds are in the apple, right? There could be 10, 15, 20, doesn't, you know, it's pretty easy to define it. But if you take one seed from that apple, it's very hard to predict exactly how many apples will come from that one seed. So that's where, you know, if there's one person that can be impacted by you, then you don't know, because it'll take time for that ripple effect to show. Right? It could be even after you and I are gone that ripple effect might happen. So, you know, that's what we get excited about, is that, you know, and if I stayed in my own comfort zone, then the likelihood of me impacting someone in that way was going to be very remote. So, sorry, did you want to?
And can I just say that is so beautifully wise. Thank you. That's awesome. And in fact, Donna, if you want to say anything at this point, there's a beautiful segue into apples and an apple tree I'm going to talk about in a minute.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything, Donna?
I haven't actually really figured out what do I want to be remembered for. Like Stephen said, there's so many things that you can think of. And I've thought of a lot of things, but I haven't really narrowed it down, probably because I haven't spent the time to sit down and actually think about it properly. So I need to put some work.
Great question. Which,
it is. Yeah.
And anyone listening to this, I think, what is our legacy? What do we want to be remembered for? Yeah. And there is a lovely Ralph Waldo Emerson quote: "Your actions are speaking so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying." And the Maya Angelou quote: "People never remember what you say, but they'll always remember how you make them feel."
Yes. You're so right, Chris.
Our legacy is something that's really, it will inform our day-to-day choices and interactions in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
So thank you for that wisdom. So if I may, can I borrow your beautiful apple seeding and wind forward? It's become a majestic apple tree now in our clearing, which is a combination of a prayer space for you, Donna, and an open road of meeting other people's space for you, getting out of your own headspace and on the open road of self-discovery for you, Stephen. And thank you for letting me join you in your clearing. We've got an apple tree. I'm going to shake your tree now to see which apples fall out. How do you like these apples? And it was a construct of a storytelling exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where the only preparation we did before this conversation is I said, could you please take 5 minutes or as long as you needed to think about 4 things that have shaped you, 3 things that inspire you, 2 things that really never fail to grab your attention, and then 1 quirky or unusual fact about you that we couldn't possibly know unless you tell us. So we're here to shake your tree. Don't panic. You don't have to download the entire, all the trees out, but which one of those apples would you most like to talk about? And I don't mind who goes first.
Oh, you go first.
Like the quirky one will be interesting, but I guess I've already spoken about the 4 things that have shaped me. Definitely was reading, listening to positive input, associating with people that that have gone down the path more than me, and the 4th thing that sort of come out of the blue was in the seeking of truth was just deciding to read the whole Bible this year, reading a bit every day, because if you're going to seek the truth, you need to go and understand that yourself. So that's just a journey that I've been on, which has been interesting and starting to shape me a little bit. What about yourself?
When I did it really quickly because I thought I really overthink things. So I got the questions and I thought, okay, just write. So 4 things that have really shaped me. The first one that came up was meeting my soulmate, because I was a single mum for many years, and I got to the space where I was like, I just don't really want a man in my life. And my first marriage was a disaster. And and I just thought, no, it's just easier without a man. But of course, God had other plans for me, and I met Stephen, and I never really knew that a relationship could be as good as what it is between us. And I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect by a long stretch, because we still have our moments.
Fight this morning.
But just the mutual sharing and the mutual respect and all those kinds of things that we have, and just so much things in common, just being able to be myself without even worrying about what kind of reaction I'm going to get, and that kind of thing has just made such a difference in my life. So that would be one thing that's definitely shaped me.
And by the way, that's a lovely answer, Donna. I'm really moved by that. And Stephen, that's just so lovely to hear.
Yeah, thank you.
I was very lucky, very blessed.
And by the way, you can absolutely tell that he feels exactly the same right back at you. That's really clear. The fact you're sitting as a sort of dynamic duo on a voyage of self-discovery, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So the things that inspire you. Personal freedom is really important for me. I'm just reading a book by Brendan Burchard called The Motivation of Manifesto, and just personal freedom is something that's really inspiring me. Helping other people with the mindset is something that I'm inspired with, not through me, but having and sharing other people's stories is what helped us change our mindset. So we're really keen on sharing other people's stories to see if that affects other people, and creating an environment for our children. What I mean by that is creating a holiday environment somewhere that our kids will want to come to. As we get older, I really want to create that environment. That's one thing that really is inspiring us to make a change as well, is to bring our family. We've got 8 kids between us.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And by the way, can I ask, what's their perception? Because they, children, if it's all going right, love you unconditionally. At least we start out in life that way. But what's been their perception of your journeys? Of recent times, I mean, in this particular journey of the 366-day journey to meet somebody new.
What the kids are thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because...
Do they even think about it?
No, it's not, because it's interesting. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we want to change and make an impact, because we want to, even at our age, even though our kids are between 20 and 30, we still see the responsibility to show them the outcomes of changing and growing yourself. Like, you can only lead if you lead yourself. So we're passionate about the change in us, because if we don't, we can't make anyone, or we can't even make our kids change the way that they think. But if we become an example, then we've done everything that we can for them to see that and hopefully change the direction or change their type of thinking.
And again, that's so in pursuit of your legacy as well. I love that. I mean, I hand on heart, you can see how proud, if anyone cares to look, they'll be very proud of you.
Yes. And the hardest thing is when you're growing, like, we know we're getting better in our life, but the kids just don't see that yet, right? Because that's like anything, it's not until there's significant change, then they'll go, people that know you, then they'll go, oh, wow. So the hardest thing for us is in anything, and this is success in anything, is you're not going to have people on the sidelines cheering you along as you go.
Yes.
So,
and that's that sort of personal accountability and personal responsibility for the choices that we make moment to moment, day to day. One of my favorite quotes about leadership is how you turn up, how you turn up every single day. Like an echolocation of a wake up, wash, repeat, wake up, wash, repeat, and just keep swimming, which I've already said.
Yes. No, so good.
Such wisdom coming out, by the way. And anything else in the apple shaking that you'd like to talk about? And you're giving us such glorious stuff, because I'm going to talk about alchemy and gold shortly, which you're giving us in spades already.
I'll talk about some of the things that inspire me. Other people's stories, just hearing people's stories of overcoming great adversity and challenge. I just find that absolutely inspiring, because, there's a lot of times in your life, or I know there is for me, I don't want to speak for everyone, but, there's times when you're going through stuff and then you feel sorry for yourself, and it's just like, why is this happening to me? And, boo-hoo, have a pity party. But when you look at what some people have gone through and overcome, I just look at myself in the mirror and I say, there is no excuse. There's just no excuse. Like, stop it and get over yourself. And I love that, that I do that, because, there's just nothing worse than wallowing around in a puddle of self-pity when there's not really a big deal, if you know what I mean. So that's definitely something that I find inspiring.
I just reflect back that beautiful phrase, pity party. It's got alliteration as well. It's just a great thing. And yes, how profoundly relatable that will be, to me, just yesterday, I felt a bit, for reasons that I won't need to go into, I felt like I was flying along with my compass pointing true north, and then I went twonking into a plate glass window, it felt. But today I woken up and thought, do you know what? I was having a bit of a pity party, and I'm back on the open road again.
Yeah.
Very relatable. And, to be vulnerable is human, and it's not weak, but it's important to be able to go to the dark side sometimes to appreciate the light side.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, you'll always go to the dark side. It's just that as you go on in a journey, you stay less in the dark side. So you always go there, but it's how long you stay there is the difference over time.
That's right. And I like what our mentor says to us. He says, it's okay to have a bad day sometimes, just don't stay there.
Yeah.
Yes. Today is a new day.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And on this new day for me, it's just such a pleasure talking to you both. So anything else you want to tell me about your apple tree shaking? It's been a good old rustle. I like it.
No, it's so good. I love your tree.
Yes.
So the things that grab my attention is what I've even learned through this journey. The seeds of greatness is really what grabs my attention now. Is I have no doubt in my mind that every single person has the seeds of greatness within them, but they don't tend to come out unless you're challenged. And the best example of that is people that have gone through massive physical challenge that are still going on with their life far beyond what you and I are even doing at this point in time. There's a guy we spoke to in the UK that inspires me from that as well. And hopefully we'll be doing a podcast with him. But then the flip side of that is when I listen to an old audio by a guy called Earl Nightingale, who helps explain to me why most people don't ever have the seeds of greatness come out of them, because he used the words, rightly or wrongly, but this is his words back in the 50s, it doesn't take a lot of brains to have a job, right? So most people, like me as an engineer, it doesn't take a lot of brains. Like you just learn at university and then you just go and do it every day. And therefore the seeds of greatness will never come out. The seeds of greatness don't just fall out on the table in front of you, right? They only come out when you're challenged. So we had to learn to lean in the challenge. Otherwise we're never going to grow and improve. And our journey was part of doing that, to get outside our comfort zone. So the seed, understanding that we all have the seeds of greatness within us is really something that's grabbed my attention. And most definitely the other thing that grabs my attention is my wife. So
thank you.
Yes, she always grabs my attention
because I'm crazy.
By the way, just that lovely sequence you've just been explaining as well. There's that lovely quote about when all the ships are in the harbour, everybody's a good sailor. We're really tested once we leave the port and start sailing into choppy seas of adversity. And that's when our true sense of who we are and how we can manage is really, brought into play.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Lovely stuff. Anything else? I'm really enjoying shaking your tree, by the way. I don't want to lose any gold that might be about to come out before I take us away from the tree. It's still there.
Yep.
Anything else?
On the tree. Good.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I can tell you a few more things. What else did I put here?
It's going to shut
Okay.
Things that grab my attention, babies and small children, but babies, I love babies. Yes. And just even makes me think of Stephen being, when he was a bit of an introvert, and we'd go shopping and we'd be in a shopping centre and I'd see someone with a baby and I'd be like, oh my goodness, it's a baby. And he'd be like, oh God, what's she doing? And that's, I don't think he'd be like that anymore, which is really good. But I don't know why, I just love babies and I love to talk to them, and people probably think I'm crazy because you know how you do that thing where you just make all funny noises and faces, and
If I may, Donna, just again, just reflecting back what you said, Stephen, you must have been a very, very, very enigmatic introvert, because obviously Donna fell in love with you whilst you were still what you perceived to be the old version of yourself. So what's so lovely is that notion of I am enough, because there's obviously something very, very deep in its sort of reservoir of what she saw in you.
He just has such a big heart.
And
when we first started speaking to each other via Facebook Messenger, because that's how we connected, and just it wasn't a really, it wasn't constant messaging or anything like that. It was just really just slow and steady, but just nice messages and telling each other a little bit about ourselves, and just kind of unfolding as the days went by. And I think that really was something that grabbed my attention, I guess, is just his heart for kindness and generosity and love, and just what a lovely person he was. And just sort of made me feel safe, I guess, just meeting him and getting to know him more.
And seeing you in side profile, as I do occasionally, Steve, you've got the laughter dimples, which proves you.
Definitely very attractive.
Lovely stuff. Loving all of that. So, shall I bring you into talk about alchemy and gold now?
Yep.
Absolutely.
So you've been on a glorious journey, and you've been giving us such, in terms of mining for gold in a conversation. I think we've struck gold quite a long time ago. But whilst we're there, what's your biggest learning been, do you think, on the path of what you've been experiencing thus far on the 366-day journey? Because what day are you into now? Is it day
248, I think it is.
Yep,
and
you're
right.
right.
Love that. So, so just any of the sort of gold or alchemy that you'd like to pick up and show to us about your journey?
This is. We'll keep this one short because there's so much we've learned.
Yeah,
but,
there really is.
But by far, it's so much about ourselves. We've learned a lot about intolerance, where we were way more intolerant than we thought we were, and we were way more judgmental than we ever thought we were. So this journey has challenged us, because when you're meeting someone new every day, you're definitely going to come across people that have different beliefs than you. So therefore now you're dealing with how intolerant you are with regards to how do you now.
You've had some choppy conversations then, have you, where you've sort of fundamentally on a deep level disagreed with somebody?
Yes, before lockdown, as an example, before lockdown, we used to go to quiz nights, because you go somewhere to meet people, so we'd go to quiz nights because there's always people there. And one night we met a lady there who was, and I started talking to her and asked her questions, which is what I do, and then eventually got a photo with her. But during the asking her questions, she mentioned something that was completely different to my belief, and I noticed myself then struggling to continue the conversation. Right, the conversation was going fantastic. Then she mentioned something, and all of a sudden it was like my mind shut down, which is like a wall went up in front of us. And I found myself stammering through this. So I got back to the table I was sitting at, and I'm going, what happened? How does this happen? And fortunately enough, opening yourself up, the lady walked past, so we sat her down and I explained to her.
We had to talk about it first.
Yeah, we had to talk about it first. And then I talked to the lady again and just said, look, I apologize, because this is, and I went through my thoughts with her. And it was just good to be able to then learn more about,
and your own feelings, which is a really profound thing to do as well. Rather than blaming somebody else for them, to own them yourself and then be able to articulate them. It's very courageous.
Yes. And that's one of the things what we've learned is when you learn to seek to understand people before you're understood, what I now understand, it's very, what do you say, vulnerable? What's the word for
vulnerable.
it? Yeah, vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because when you want to understand someone, when they bring up something that you don't believe and you start trying to understand it, you're at the risk now that you might actually find out something that you had as a belief that might not be true. So when you're seeking to understand, you're running a risk of now hearing things that you don't really want to hear.
Yes.
And so that's what we've learned, is actually taking an interest in people.
Like an inverted lens, like a mirror onto nature sometimes. Not that this was about that, but there is that expression where if you're falling out with somebody, sometimes your criticism of me is a reflection of you. It's sometimes just the idea of the mirror to nature, and we can dash ourselves on the rock of a sudden realization sometimes.
Yes.
And what we've learnt through this, and it'll be, might be stepping out here, but what we've learned is people can have different beliefs. It doesn't mean I don't like you.
Yeah.
Right? I still like you as a person, but you and I just have different beliefs. So let's,
that's quite okay.
That's okay
it's
with me.
Absolutely normal.
Yeah.
It's okay to disagree is a lovely thing.
Yeah.
But, so how did the particular individual react when you sat her down and gave her the transparency of the honesty of that?
That's what helped me, because it was amazing, because she understood.
Yeah.
she understood, which was just and it was and that's where you go out and you sit down in your car and go, wow, okay, what do we learn from that one? And judgment is the other one. I don't know if you want to tell Sam's story. That was
when we were physically meeting people again, we went to the gym one night, because that was a great place to meet people too. And it was really late, so we were kind of like under the pump, we've got to meet someone. It was 11:30 at night, so we had half an hour left in the day to meet somebody. And we were leaving the gym, and I walked past this guy, and he was sitting there. He had headphones on, and he was looking down at his phone. He had arms this big, like they
bigger
were
than
huge.
my legs.
Like he was so muscly, and they were covered in tattoos. And I thought, that guy just looks scary. I hope Stephen doesn't talk to him. And this is what's going on in my head. Like, don't speak to him. And then I hear Stephen say, gee, mate, you've got big arms. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going to be mad. And this guy goes, oh, gee, thanks, mate. And he stood up and he took off his headphones and started to have this conversation. And he was just an absolutely interesting young man. Like he was only 27 years old, and he had his own business, and he'd come over to Australia and been kept in a detention centre. He just had this amazing life that he told us about, and he was so lovely. And when we left the gym, I said to Stephen, that was a slap in the face for me, because I really judged that guy. I just thought he looked scary. I didn't, and that was the judgment was, he'll be mad at us because he looks scary. I think that was what was going on in my head. Which was just totally unfounded, because
it's a lovely payback for you, Donna, of Stephen paying you back for speaking to the baby all those years ago.
I like that. You talk to the big scary man, I talk to the baby.
Beautiful stuff about unconscious bias, judgment, and don't judge a book by its cover. And give somebody a damn good listening to, and whole revelations can unfold. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
No, it's been awesome.
Yes.
So it's been, and it's continuing to be, such a pleasure talking to you. What I'd like to do now, if I may, is award you with a metaphorical cake.
Oh
yes. Cake is going to be for you both, and it's delicious talking to you. And I'm going to invite you to put a cherry on the cake now, and leave us with, what do you want the legacy of this conversation to be? If we take one thing away from the wonderful experience of our conversation, what would you like to leave us with? And I appreciate that's quite a pressurizing question, but
in fact, it's an easy question, Chris. If anyone can get on YouTube and look it up, there's a great audio by Earl Nightingale called The Strangest Secret. He has a mesmerizing voice. When he recorded it back in, I think it was the 50s. I don't know the exact date, but I do know at the time it sold more records outside of any music than any other material. And he called this thing The Strangest Secret. Long and short, what I took from that, which seems to be which comes out in everything that I've read, is that simply that you become what you think about. You move, you end up in the direction of your most dominant thoughts. And it's just an amazing audio to listen to. And he talks about on there that, all the people in the past disagree on nearly everything except for this one thing, and he lists all these people and what they've said, and it comes down to that you and I will become what you and I think about. So I hope that's a good cherry.
That's a
Yeah.
profound
Oh,
cherry.
that's right.
Just for anyone listening, it's Earl Nightingale, and what was it called again?
The strangest secret.
The strangest secret.
Lovely. I'm aware that our can you still hear me okay? Because I know
Yeah.
that our picture's beginning to freeze slightly. The quirks of
Yes.
Zoom.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you're just frozen a little bit.
yes, so that may come out in the comedy of watching back. We'll go, oh, we've started to freeze a bit. So if it does accidentally end here, I'm really sorry that this is happening. And Donna, can you still hear me? Can.
Yes. Yeah.
We're back. The quirks of Zoom. We're back in the room.
Yes, you're back. Yay!
Yes. Oh, cool. Here we are.
And I've been told my internet. We're nearly at the point of we can. So, Donna, what would you like to say in response to the same question? What would your cherry on the cake be?
I think my cherry on the cake would be, if I could give people any words of wisdom, it would be do everything with love. Because love, if you do everything with love, you don't judge, you don't argue, you don't get angry, and you accept people, you practice tolerance, that doesn't mean you have to agree with everything everyone says or do what everyone else wants, but just to find that place where you can have opinions and perspectives and that kind of thing, and allow other people to do the same. And like we have one life, we don't know how long it's going to be, and like I often think that, and I don't want to waste my life being angry or annoyed or any of that kind of thing. I want to do as much as I can with love, treat people with love always. And I think, I don't know, what's the saying, love covers a multitude of sins or something like that. I'm not really 100% sure what it means, but to me it just means love. With love there can't be any negative emotions. So I hope that all makes sense. Made sense in my head.
Yes. I was going to say, no, yes, it did. It absolutely did. So do everything with love. And I have to say, I've absolutely loved. This is our third conversation, by the way. And thank you for letting me reciprocate and do the favour of listening to you too, because it's been absolutely wonderful having you here on What You Need Is a Damn Good Listening To with Stephen and Donna Fry. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're very welcome. Have a lovely day.
Cool, for sure.